Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new, we're the Night Homestead, and our channel is just us taking y'all along with us as we do our first time homestead projects here. We're growing some stuff, building some stuff, and raising some animals. So we're just taking you guys along. We're glad to have you. Today's video is more of like a vlog style. It's not a how-to, nothing formal. We planted the garden this week and last weekend. So we're just showing y'all, the footage of us. We videoed ourselves planting it. We've planted everything but the corn. That's going to be a separate video. And then everything in our garden, our yard garden. This is our pasture garden. That's on Mimi's property. The pea patch. So the corn's not planted, the pea patch isn't planted, and everything in our garden that we're about to show you is planted except for the pole beans and the cucumbers. We're gonna do that today or tomorrow, I don't know. Sometime, but we got most of it planted, and this is what the video is about. We're just showing y'all. Yeah, tell them.
You gonna say something?
Talk to them.
No,
okay. Well, anyways, here's the video.
Alright guys, as y'all can see now, I've got the garden tilled, and I come back through with the farm-all tractor and I rode my rows up. Now this is a 100-foot by 35-foot plot. It's 100 foot long and 35 foot wide. And I ended up getting 9 rows in this plot. With the way the tractor's set up, I was able to get 9 rows out of it, 9 100-foot long rows. And now what I'm going to come back and do is take a hoe and come over the top of my rows and just kind of flatten them down with the flat part of the hoe, so that I can come back and use a seed planter. I'll push a long seed planter on it to plant our garden with. And then it's going to take me a little while to get them flattened out. And then I'll come back with the seed planter and plant all our seeds and figure out where we're going to put everything. I really wasn't expecting to make this garden this big this year, but that's just kind of the way it ended up. And if you can look right here on the other end, there's a tripod. I got that tilled up yesterday. That's going to be for our corn plot. All right, I'll get back with you. All right guys, I want to tell you all a little about what the reason I'm doing it this way. This is the way my family's always done it. We've always rowed our gardens up and planted on top of the row. I've talked to quite a few old timers over the past couple weeks about the way they plant theirs, and they don't plant theirs like this. They will come in and till and plant flat on top of that, and then come back and make their seed bed a furrow almost. Like, I prefer not to do it that way. This is the way I was raised doing it, and how my grandparents, both sets, always planted their gardens. This is how we planted gardens as when I was a kid. You know, I'm stuck in my ways, I guess you could say. I don't know which way is better to say, but I prefer doing it this way. I just think it makes a cleaner looking garden. I know my rows aren't completely straight. This is the first time I've ever used the little tractor to hill up a garden. I just used it to come through here and mound my rows up, and then I come back with a hoe and kind of dressed them up and flatten the top off. All right, now the next step is going to be coming back and actually planting. So I'm fixing to go inside. We're going to plan out what we're going to plant, and I'm going to start getting everything together. first row, we are going to plant summer squash. On the second row, this will be tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. This row will be lima bush beans. This row will also be lima bush beans. This row, we're going to do one row of contender bush beans. They're really good producers, so I only decided to do one row because we're going to plant pole beans on the last row, or next to last row too. This row, I decided we're going to do zipper cream peas on this row too. And then this row will be our cucumber and pole bean row, so I can run some trellises, and I will imagine we'll have a little extra space in there. I can probably fill in with either zipper creams or limas, whatever I choose to do at that time. And then this last row, we're going to plant okra, because I mean, a couple plants go a long way, and it gets shade part of the day, so that will kind of knock them back to not allow them to produce as many, but it still gets quite a bit of sun throughout the day. So we're going to plant I think it's called Longhorn heirloom okra on this row. It grows big long okra on it that get close to a foot long before they get too tough to eat. So that's the garden layout for now. I am just showing y'all what we're going to plant each row right now while it's hot, until it cools off a little bit and Kelsey can come out here. And Kelsey and the baby, we don't want them getting too hot. It's pretty hot here today in East Texas. I think it's around 85, 86 degrees. I've been sweating most of the day, but that's just part of it. It gets warm quick here. As soon as winter's over, it's straight into summer. There really ain't no springtime. Anyways, I'm going to show y'all how I'm going to do our plant spacing on these first two rows, and then I'll get back with you. On this first row, I'm going to show y'all what we're going to plant and how I'm going to plant it. This first row, we decided we're going to plant our summer squash and zucchini, just because it's going to be the lowest crop we're going to grow, or the shortest, I mean. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through here and space all of them out. I built this little doohickey here. I don't know what you'd call it. This is just an old post hole digger handle, and then I took a board and cut it 3 foot, and then I drilled a hole in it and stuck that through and screwed it together there. I don't know if you can see that. Now I stuck the recommended planting depth for squash is 1 inch, so I took this handle and stuck it through about 1 inch, and then affixed it right there. So what I'll do is I'll find where I want to put my first plant, and I'll put that in down like this. I'll put that in, and that'll make my first hole right there, and then I'll spin it around and put this point on that hole, and that'll give me our 3 foot spacing down the row, so everything's spaced out correctly. All right, if y'all just watch me, I'll make a couple holes here. All right, now that I showed y'all how I'm gonna be spacing everything out, I'm gonna go down this row and finish it out, and then later when it gets a little cooler, Kelsey's gonna come out and she's gonna help me plant. I got her a piece of PVC tubing. It's about this long, where she doesn't have to bend over. She can just put it in that hole and drop a seed in. Now this is a 100-foot row, and we're spacing the plants 3 foot apart, so that will give us 36 plants on this one row. We're going to do 18 yellow squash and 18 zucchini. All right, on the second row, we're going to plant tomatoes. Back up just a hair. We're going to plant tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. Now we're going to do those on 2 foot spacing so we can fit a little bit more in the row. What I did is I just had a little piece of scrap metal. I think it was flashing for can't even think of the name of it now. I can't even think of it now. But anyways, it's just a little piece of metal. I just cut it at 2 foot long so I could come through here and use it for my spacing. And then I took a old hatchet handle that the end was broke off, and I just cut it on a 45 there so I could use that as a dibbler. And I come through here and put our holes, so that'll give us right at 50 plants on this row, in between tomatoes, peppers, and we got a couple eggplants too. All right, guys, on the third and the fourth row in, we're gonna plant these Henderson lima bush beans. I bought these at our local feed store. I think there are what you would call like a trellising variety of lima beans and a bush bean. I prefer the bush bean. That's just a lot of work trellising that many to get your limas. So, and these are fairly small, small type lima. Now what we're going to be using is we borrowed this hand planter, or this push along planter, from Kelsey's uncle. It's a Earthway. I have the jumbo pea size tray in it, and what you do is you go ahead and dump this whole bag out. These planters like this work better if you have quite a bit of extra seed in there, because it just helps it pick up better to plant. I don't know exactly the spacing on these yet. It may be I think it may be around 6 inches. I'm not exactly sure, but this is what we're going to plant all of our beans and peas with, and our corn on our corn patch. I don't know if you can see it way down there. We're going to be planting the corn with this too. This is the first time I've ever used this. I've always planted by hand, so it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience. Her uncle kind of walked me through how to use it and all that. Now down here, it has adjustment for your seed planting depth. That's millimeter side. We don't use millimeters around here. We use standard. So it starts at 1/4 and goes 1/2, 3/4. Actually, it's already set up on an inch, so we'll just use it like that. And move y'all down so you can see this way down here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up this bag of beans. I think this should be enough for the 200-foot rows. If it's not, I can always go and get some more later. I really should do succession planting, but I'm wanting to go ahead and get everything planted because we got a rainstorm coming tomorrow, and that'll just be a good time to put your stuff in there for it to germinate. So let's get started. Now you want to line this up down the middle of your row, or even, you don't have to use a row for this either. You can also just come in, and if you have a good flat piece of ground, you can just till it and lay your rows out wherever you're going to plant them, and then just push this along and it'll plant a nice neat row. Here I'm fixing to go. Now this tray that I have set up in here, it actually put them out pretty close together. I think that's going to be okay. I've never actually planted lima beans before, but I mean, I figure it's like a pea or a bush green bean. You can plant them pretty close and that really doesn't jack them up. But if you'll see, that used that whole 1/2 pound really fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and plant what I got left on this row, and then whatever's left I can plant with, I got plenty of contender bush beans. I'll just fill in with it. I'm not too worried about going and getting more. That'll hard to be plenty of lima beans off that whole row. Now there at the end, when it started getting low, it wasn't picking them up as well, so I just went ahead and took the rest out and hand planted them in there. Just kind of sprinkled them along that furrow that the planter made. All right, had a little mishap on that last one. I don't know if y'all seen, I ran out of lima beans about halfway down this row, and I come back and planted the rest of it in the next row with contender bush bean. It's a green bean variety that grows as a bush. It is extremely well producer in our area. I mean, it just puts on loads and loads of green beans. They're good to eat fresh, or you can can them or anything like that. And they also, if you let them get fully to maturity and harvest them, you can save the beans off of them and eat them like you would any other bean. So they're good in two different ways. I figure that's with most beans, but didn't know if y'all knew that. So we really like the contender bush bean. We're going to be trying to can quite a bit this year because I like eating green beans almost every night, honestly. Either that or peas. I mean, it's like one of my favorite vegetables to eat with a meal. We've walked y'all through row number 1, which is summer squash. Row number 2, which is tomatoes, peppers, and a couple eggplants. Row number 3 is the bush lima bean. And then row number 4, half of it's lima bush bean, and the other half is contender bush bean, green bean. And then row number 5 is completely all contender bush bean. Now the next 2 rows, I'm going to plant a zipper cream. I don't know if y'all have ever had a zipper cream, but they're really good. They're a smaller pea, and when you cook them, they look a little different than a purple hull. If you haven't ever tried them, I really suggest you grow some because we really like them. I don't like them quite as much as purple hulls, but they're pretty high up there on my list. So we're going to plant 2 rows of them. I bought 1 pound of zipper creams from the feed store. I hope that does both rows. If not, I'll have to go back and get more. I was saving these because I was going to plant these in our large pea patch that's behind us, but I'm actually just going to plant that in all purple hulls because we have so many people wanting to get purple hulls from us. I have close to 27 rows, and they're, oh man, I would say they're probably, they're over 100-foot row. 100-foot long rows. That's going to be quite a bit of peas. I'll have to succession plant those because if I plant 27 rows at one time, I mean, I won't ever be able to get to them. We'll have to have an army out there to pick them all. So we're going to go ahead and plant these zipper creams. All right, I'm still going to be using the same tray in here. It calls for jumbo pea or small pea or early June peas. I don't know what those are. Maybe that's what these are. Who knows? But I'm just going to go ahead and dump this whole pound in there. Now these are a little bit smaller than the contenders that we planted or the lima beans, so maybe these will go a little farther and I can get both rows out of it. Now I almost had enough. I got this much left over, but the last couple feet in that last row didn't plant all that well because there wasn't quite enough. So I'm just going to take these extras and just sprinkle them out in that furrow. Not doing anything too scientific here. We're just kind of getting it planted. I mean, I know a couple of them I kind of got, you know, a little squirrely on the rows there, but it ain't no big deal. It's not like tomatoes where they're not centered on the row. These are beans and peas. They're not really that picky. I mean, they are a little bit, but that ain't gonna affect them all that much. All right, on our last row here, we're gonna plant okra. We're gonna skip the next to last row, which is where we're gonna put our trellising vegetables, just because I don't have the trellises set up yet, and you want a little bit more of a controlled planting spacing on those, especially with the cucumbers, because they will take the place over. So we're going to go ahead and plant okra on this last row. Now I'm using longhorn okra. It's an heirloom variety that grows a really long pod that stays tender for a long time. In my last garden, we had, Kelsey will put a picture in here, we had okra pods that were close to like 12 inches long that were still tender enough to eat. So I really like this variety. It grows real tall. It does real good in our area. I used to plant crimson spineless. It's like the go-to for everybody. It always does good, but I decided I wanted to try something a little different. I'd always grown that, and I was like, well, I seen that in the store. I was like, man, that sounds good. Let's try that. And it ended up being a really good producer for us, and I like the way it grows around here. So that's what we're going to plant. Now, I forgot to mention, I'm going to be switching out the tray in this planter to a okra planter, or this is actually good for okra, beets, and Swiss chard. But we're going to be planting okra today, and this is the right size tray for that. I don't know if y'all can see in here, there's this little white deal. That's what pretty much turns the planter. It works off this little belt and pulley system. As this wheel turns, it moves that deal inside, which turns this, and these little cups pick up your seed and then throw it in this little chute here that goes out the bottom into this little, pretty much a little baby plow, and it drops it down in there, and then this chain covers it up and your back wheel smashes it down. So let me put this in here real quick. You just line these little notches up in it with the little notches on this wheel deal. Let's call that a wheel deal for now. There it goes, and then you hold your front wheel and push it back. It won't lock in or anything. It's just kind of friction fit. So don't be forcing it. You'll break your planter. All right. This is, I'm going to guesstimate that's about a pound of okra seed. That's going to be a lot of okra there. We're going to have okra out the ears. Pick this up. Filled a couple. All right, pour your whole deal in. Now this planter, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, it works better if you have an excess amount of seed in here, way more than you're planning on planting. It just helps the planter to pick it up better as it plants. Okra's planted. Now you can see how much okra seed I have left over after planting that whole 100 foot row. It's quite a bit, so we'll have plenty left over if we need to replant or come in and put okra where it might get sparse, or you don't ever know what happens. Now if y'all are looking at my arms, I'm a welder. I don't do drugs. This isn't from, I'd say, meth bugs. I'm a welder and I have a dark skin tone, so when I tan it makes all my little scars pop out. I'm not nasty or nothing. It's just a part of my profession. I know I need to wear sleeves sometimes and I don't. It just is what it is. So if you can see here, we got one row of okra planted. We haven't planted this row yet. I imagine we're not going to plant the whole thing in cucumbers and pole beans, just because that's a lot of trellising to do. We may only do probably half the row. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned earlier the reason we're planting the okra and the trellising vegetables on this side of the garden. This is the west side of our property, and if y'all know anything about the sun, it rises in the east, which is over towards that way, and sets in the west. So when the sun comes up, and this is all under full sun, if we planted all of our tall vegetables on the other side of the garden, they would shade out the rest of the garden. So that's why we plant them on this end, because the okra and the vining vegetables will get taller and they'll create a lot more shade, and we don't want to shade out the rest of our vegetables on that side of the garden. All right, this is looking from the other end of our garden. There's our raised beds with potatoes, strawberries on the other end, and some onions right here that I planted like 4 months too late. We'll see how that goes. We didn't make a video about it because way too late on that. I was just trying to get them in the ground so we didn't waste money. Anyways, here's our first row. That's going to be our summer squash, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. This is lima beans. This one's half lima, the other half contender bush bean. This is all contender bush bean. This one is zipper cream. This row zipper cream. This one's our vining, probably some more zipper creams because I don't think we're going to run the trellises all the way down. And this last row here is our okra. All right, I just wanted to come in here and show y'all a close-up of what that planter does when it plants. It makes a little furrow down the middle of your row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with my hoe, and there's a couple seeds in here that didn't get completely covered up. So what I'm going to do is come in here with my hoe and just kind of rake that dirt back over it so it's planted at the right depth. All right, I went in to get Kelsey and Jed, and it's bath time for Jed, so they couldn't come out. So I'm going to go ahead and plant these squash on our first row here. Now what I'm going to be planting is early prolific straight neck. I really like this variety. It produces quick, it produces good, heavy, and they're a little easier to slice because they're straight neck. I do like the other varieties. They're just not as easy to cut up, but it's not that big a deal. And the zucchini varieties that we're planting, I'm going to start with these Cocozelle squash. I think it is a zucchini. It looks like a zucchini. Not too sure. I seen it in the store and I bought it because it looked cool. And I'm going to try those out. I don't know how many seeds are in this package. It feels like maybe about 10. So I may have to come in and supplement with this, with these dark green zucchinis here. If these don't go far enough. Like I said earlier, we'll have 18 plants of each down this 100-foot row. I have them on 3-foot spacing. Already come through and mark my holes. So I'm just going to come through here and I'm going to take a piece of PVC pipe. It's about 3.5, 4 foot long. And I'm just going to put this pipe down in the hole. All right, here's our first hole here. So I'll just take this piece of pipe and stick it down here. And then I'll drop my seed down in there and it'll go straight into the hole. That saves me a little bit of bending over and maybe keep my back from hurting too bad. And then when we're done, we'll come back with a hoe and just cover up our little holes there. All right, it looks like we'll have enough zucchini seeds here. I think this will be plenty enough to plant the rest of this row. All right, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna come back with my hoe and I'm just gonna cover my little holes up where I planted the seeds. All right, guys, I just want to talk a little bit about the varieties of tomatoes that we're planting. We started a whole bunch of tomatoes from seed back a couple months ago, and we really didn't have a lot of good luck. If you can see, this is some that we started from a seed. So I come back and replanted a couple in there about a week ago. Just a little too late, but we decided we just would go ahead and buy some pre-started plants at Atwood's. This year we're wanting to make a lot of spaghetti sauce and just a lot of canned tomato paste, if you would say, more of a tomato sauce. So we decided we're going to plant mainly Roma types. So all these that we started here are San Marzano heirloom variety, and most of the ones we bought were, but there weren't quite enough to make a flat, so we got a couple other varieties in there. They are heirloom varieties too. This one's Amish paste, and the rest are all San Marzano. There's another Amish paste, but we're going to go ahead and plant all of these in a row, all the San Marzano and Romas in a line down here. I already have it marked out on our 2-foot spacing for those, so I'm going to go ahead and plant all of those in a line. Now the process for planting tomatoes and peppers and the eggplant are going to be a little different than with the other. Lucy, get out of it. They're going to be a little different than the other things that we planted today. I'm going to dig a hole where I'm going to plant the tomato, and then I'm going to add a tablespoon of this egg lime here. It's a 50-pound bag. I bought it Tractor Supply. It's the only place I could find it because I didn't want to go to Lowe's. This is finely pulverized dolomitic limestone. Now this will add calcium and magnesium in there, and that will help the tomatoes with blossom end rot. If y'all are having blossom end rot problems with your tomatoes and your peppers and stuff, this will not completely cure everything, but this will help with it. And also we will also be adding in a little bit of garden epsom salt here. I would pick up that 50-pound bag, but it's kind of heavy. We're going to also put about a tablespoon of this garden epsom salt in there. That will also help with any problems that your tomatoes and peppers will have too, with blossom end rot. Next, we're also going to, in the bottom of the hole, we're going to put a tablespoon of this bone meal. This is organic bone meal. This is a organic fertilizer. It's kind of slow release, but this will give them a good boost. When their roots hit it, they'll go to growing. And we're also going to put about a tablespoon of this organic blood meal in there that's pretty high in nitrogen. So that's the amendments we're going to put in each hole. We're also going to do that for the peppers and the eggplant too, because they need pretty much the same nutrients as a tomato. They're all in the same family together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my garden tool, and everywhere on my 2-foot marks, I'm going to come in there and make a good hole, and then I'll come back and add a tablespoon of each of those 4 ingredients I showed y'all just a minute ago. And then I'll come back and start planting the tomatoes and the peppers on it. I'll go into more depth on the types of peppers we're planting here in a little bit. All right, I got all my holes made. The digging tool didn't really work out like I thought it was going to, so I just kind of stuck my 2 hands down in there and pulled a good chunk of soil out and set it off to the side. And now I'm going to come back and put all my amendments in the holes. If y'all watched our strawberry video, you'll know about how much a teaspoon of these amendments are. This is the measurement I use, about that much. Makes it easy on you, and you don't worry about getting too technical with it. It ain't that big a deal. So I'm gonna go through here and add all 4 of our amendments in our holes, and then I'll get started planting.
I'm going to do the Epsom salt.
I'm gonna go in and put the bone meal in now. All right, now I'm gonna go back with this ag lime, and this will be the last of our amendments I'm gonna put in the hole. Good thing about drinking coffee every morning, you always got containers.
You know, one thing you can do while you're doing this, it looks like a tedious task, and it is, but you know, this is a great time while you're walking through your garden just to pray for your garden. Pray that the Lord will bless your garden and bless your efforts, and that, you know, we'll have a great harvest, that we'll have enough for our friends and our family who want some. So, I mean, that's just a good time to do it. You can walk through your garden and pray anytime, but especially while you're doing these tedious tasks, it kind of gives you something to do while you're walking, you know, around. Okay, so now we are just going back and we're kind of mixing it all up with our hands.
All right, when you're planting these tomato plants, you want to take your little container and kind of mush it up around the outside to free that dirt up, and then you just tip it over while holding on to your tomato plant. Now these are ones we grew from seed, and they're not looking too hot, but I think they're going to do good. But what we're going to do to help them grow a better root system, you see how long that is? What we're going to do is we're going to plant it almost right up to these leaves like that. And tomatoes are real good about sending out roots. You can plant them extra deep, and it actually makes a stronger plant. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these, bury them in there.
These need all the help they can get.
Oh, they're good. Not the worst I've ever planted that made it, I can promise you. There you go. Got a tomato plant.
After the tomatoes, we still have a few holes left, and what we're going to plant in those holes, we have some red pepper that we're going to plant, and the reason that we're going to plant this is so we can make crushed red pepper flakes. So this is what's going after the tomatoes, and we also have eggplants. Let me get those. This is the eggplant that we're planting. It's a fairy tale eggplant. We're just planting 2 of these and 2 of those red peppers. This fairy tale eggplant is supposed to produce 2 weeks earlier than like your standard hybrid eggplant. I'm not sure. I really don't even know. I've never had eggplant, I don't think. So that's fine if we get some, you know. I'm excited to cook with them and make some recipes using eggplant. Anyways, I've never had eggplant before, so this will be fun. I think Jake, don't you like eggplant? Yeah, Jake likes eggplant. So like I said, we only have 2 of these and 2 of the red peppers, but that's what we're going to plant after these tomatoes. Jake said that he wants me to make eggplant parmesan with the sauce that we get from these tomatoes. So, see? It's a full recipe right there.
All right, we're also going to be planting some sweet bell peppers. These are California Wonderful. We started these from seeds. And these are also jalapenos we're going to be planting too. I don't think we're going to have enough room on this row, so we may switch over to the row that we have over there that we're going to put our trellising stuff on instead of planting some more beans. or peas. I think I'm gonna plant the rest of our peppers over there so we can get them all in the ground. All right, on your peppers and your eggplants, you don't want to plant those as deep as you did on the tomatoes, because I think you can a little bit, but we're not going to. We're just gonna plant them right at soil level. There's some good roots on them. We're gonna plant them right at soil level so we're not choking the plant off too much. These are the eggplants. We only have 2 eggplants. We're gonna plant those in between the tomatoes and the peppers.
If you're still watching this, you should comment what you like to plant in your garden, because this is really our first, it's not our first garden, but it is our first big garden. And we're planting lots of new stuff this year that we've never planted before. So we'd love to hear what y'all are planting, what your favorite things to plant are. Maybe we can get some ideas of next year what we forgot this year. Or what are some things that you have good luck growing?
All right, we had 6 of those little peat pods full of the bell peppers. Now I got, I think, 6 holes left on the end of this row. I'm gonna go ahead and plant these jalapenos in those holes, and I think we'll be done for today.
Today.
Big root system on that fella.
You know what, I tried my best.
It's not your fault. Sometimes it just doesn't work out the way it should.
If that makes it, I'll be thoroughly pleased.
Worst case scenario, some of these plants don't make it. There is plenty to go around at most of the feed stores around here. We can just go get what doesn't make it, and most of this, we're over planting quite a bit, so if stuff doesn't make it, we're okay. We got way enough planted.
While we plant jalapeno peppers, do you like them?
All right, these are some chili tapines I started. They're also known as a bird's eye chili. If you can see how tiny them little suckers are. If they don't make it, I'm not that heartbroken, because they don't make a very large pepper. I mean, it's really small. It's about the size of maybe a blueberry at the biggest. That would be a monster one to say.
But you special order those off Etsy.
Yes, I did special order these off.
Very excited. Don't let him lie to you.
I did, but they didn't do well when I started them, so I bought them so I could try to perennialize them, because my grandpa used to have one at his lake house when I was growing up as a kid, and it would come back every year, and it ended up being a really big bush, and it was just something cool that you could go down there and get peppers off of it almost, well, not all year. It went dormant in the wintertime, but there was always peppers on it when it was warm weather, and you could go down there year after year and get chilies off of it. They're really good for, they're very spicy, but they're very good for putting in salsas and stuff like that if you want to use them, or you can just kind of pop them whole.
We'll get some Mallory or her salsa.
Yeah. They're native to Texas, tapines, and there's another variety I think that's native to South Texas, and the turkeys absolutely love them. So I mean, worst case scenario, we feed them to our chickens if we don't want to eat all of them, if they make it. I mean, look how, that's a good root system on that bad boy. Look at that. Woo, we're going to plant it anyways.
Is that our smallest plant that we've planted?
Yeah, by far.
Wow.
Make a little tiny hole.
I mean, he's little. Comment below, will the chili tapine make it?
Now, in our old garden, I did plant peppers that were this small, and they did grow up and produce for us. Not a whole lot. They were really stunted, but you know, it is what it is. I didn't mention earlier, I'm not gonna water any of the rows I planted, because we do have a rainstorm coming in the next day or day and a half, and so I'm not even gonna worry with pulling water hose over here and watering everything in so it can germinate. I'm just going to wait for that storm to come through and take care of all that. But I am going to take a watering can and come in here and water in all these peppers and tomatoes, just so that that water will percolate through the soil and kind of wash the roots down into where they need to be.
Because they're lost right now.
They're good, I'm telling you, they're good. All right, guys, we just want to thank y'all so much for watching along as we planted our garden. Now, a lot of the stuff that we did, that's just the way we prefer to do it. We're not saying this is the right way or the wrong way, and that's why we didn't go into a lot of detail on it, how we did it this year, just because we were wanting to get it in the ground, and so it will be coming up so we can feed our family with it. There's so many ways to garden. We just chose this way to do it this year, and next year we may choose a different way. But we just thank y'all so much for joining along with us as we grow our homestead, and we ask that you like, subscribe, and share our videos so we can reach more people. And please go check out our Instagram and Facebook. We are posting a lot of updates on there too, and we just thank y'all so much for joining along with us.
Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.